Head for Business moving up on the outside, 2 lengths in front of Safe Combination. Then it's a gap of 5 to Candy Fury, Eric the Viking, and CEO. They turn for home, and Speedboat shakes loose. Opens up 4 lengths now at the rail. Conundrum trying to get into second. A weakened Little Mischief is on the outside, and in between those two, Big Well. Speedboat is long gone. Speedboat just cruising through the stretch, nudged along by Mike Smith, who gets his second, and another for corner as well. Photo for second goes to Conundrum in front of Big Well. Then came Little Mischief and Safe Combination. Olympic legend. They're in the gate. And they're off. Highland Ghost gets the first call, Olympic legend. Here's BOCHOMBO now moving up to take the lead. At the rails, Smuggler's Run is only 4 lengths off the early tempo, followed by Echo Smith, who was in just a tad tight, in fact, steadies sharply after that. Do It for Andrew with the purple sleeves moves by that rival, as does Shut Up Michael. And then it's a gap to Diamond Digger, who's far back. BOCHOMBO takes him into the far turn, leading the way by just under a length. Highland Ghost in second, Smuggler's Run at the rail, Olympic legend on the outside, and Do It for Andrew between those two. Shut Up Michael is on the fence with 6 to make up. Echo Smith next, 4 clear of Diamond Digger. They're a quarter of a mile from home. BOCHOMBO goes on, leads it by a length. Down at the rails, Smuggler's Run looking for a seam. Just now brushed with Highland Ghost as he comes after the leader. And in the center of the course, Do It for Andrew is also finishing strongly. It's a driving finish. Do It for Andrew far outside. BOCHOMBO digs in at the rail. Smuggler's Run, Highland Ghost. BOCHOMBO turning them all away. And BOCHOMBO sharp in victory. Wins it by almost 2. Smuggler's Run second. Then Highland Ghost, Do It for Andrew, and Shut Up Michael.
Sometimes you can over handicap. Want an example? I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt today. What was I thinking? Obviously the sun is out here in Southern California and the conditions are fast and firm. So happy that you decided to join us. But one thing's for sure, you cannot over handicap today's Rainbow Pick 6. Mandatory payout, $395,000 already in the pool. Expectations are the pool new money will exceed $4 million. So definitely get involved. It's only a 20-cent wager and it's as simple as picking 6 winners in the last 6 races. How difficult could that be? Well, participate in the pool today and you'll actually find out. But make no mistake, one of the people participating in the pool today is my guest. He's trainer Mike Puype. Mike, welcome to the seminar.
Thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you. Now, look, you probably woke up when some of us were going to bed. What time did you get to the racetrack and what's your morning been like so far?
We start at the barn quite early, 4 o'clock, and then roll right through. The training starts at 4:45 and you move right through them. I didn't have any workouts today, so it was a little easier morning for me. We move into workouts the next 2 days and, get out of here. Usually we shoot to get out of here by 10:30, get home, clean up, and then come on back.
How do you determine when horses work, Mike? You talked about how you didn't have any workers today, but how do you kind of schedule it out? Of course, there's a lot of hiccups along the way, but tell us about kind of what your master plan is like.
Yeah, I think a lot of trainers have moved to working horses pretty much on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday versus the Wednesday, Thursday, because with running 3 days a week, you're really wanting to pair up that last work before a race, anywhere from 4, 5, or 6 days out of the race, and it just works out better to have those works put in on those days over the other. The other thing is they always do some maintenance on the track on Monday and make it a little deeper on Tuesday. And Tuesday there's no workers, they don't allow them. And then Wednesday, you'd be a little questionable to say, should you be out there Wednesday, until that track tightens up a little more? That's a good question. So I don't think that a lot of people are looking for the Wednesday work either, but for most people, I think a lot of that action happens between those 4 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
We talked about handicapping's today card, including the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 with a mandatory payout. Today's card is very, very solid from a gambling perspective.
No question about it. Probably one of the best cards they put together in quite some time out here, because we've had a little bit of a field size problem most of the meet, and you definitely have some depth, but you have some depth that doesn't create a lot of singles on the card, and without singles, tickets start costing more, so you better bring a little money out here today. But I'm sure that they'll round up every bit of whatever their projection is. It's a good sequence, and gamblers want a sequence. They don't want a lot of easy stuff. They don't bet into big pools when it's too easy, and it's not too easy today. It's a very competitive card.
One of the singles, Mike, that many players might be looking at is Becca Taylor in our feature race. The Irish O'Brien come down the hill in race number 8. You've got a runner in there by the name of Pulpit Rider, who obviously likes Del Mar and specifically the Solana Beach handicap. She's had a lot of success down there going 2 turns. What was the thought process of entering her in a sprint down the hill?
Yeah, it was between that and a 1 1/8 on Sunday, and I felt that there'd be a little more pace in this race, and she runs well when there's pace. Her sprint form isn't that great, but it's not as bad as it looks. She'll come running if she gets the proper ride today, and I don't have any illusions to believe that she'll win today, just because there doesn't appear to be a lot of speed. I don't know if the race really sets up to flatter her closing style today, but if you place on the board, it's more resume for her when she stops running. It's just another black on her record, and that's better than probably running the allowance race and hitting the border. Eventually she'll get to win the allowance race, and we're looking forward to Del Mar still with her. She loves the course down there. There's no question about it. She actually got disqualified in the Solana Beach 2 years ago, and she was much the best that day. Besides the disqualification, she couldn't get out, so she's technically almost won that race 3 years in a row, and we're looking forward to it this summer.
I mentioned Becca Taylor might be a single on many tickets, but the contention runs deep. Besides Pulpit Rider, we've also got Sensible Cat, Eddie's New Dream. Sensible Cat, we know, likes coming down the hill. Yeah, Eddie's New Dream comes out of a very live race. Those look to be a couple of
exactly. Those are the other 2 horses. I think you got to go 3 deep in that race. Those are the 3 horses. The other 2 horses come out of live heats, like you said. Royal Address came back to win, and Eddie's New Dream comes out of a live race too. And I think that it presents. Now, Becca Taylor, you have to have an ultimate amount of respect for her at being 6 for 6, but in her company line, she really hasn't seen much, so these other fillies are a little bit better, and she's probably up to the task. But Is she an overwhelming favorite to single? I don't know if that I could do it. You know, it looks like a race that you need to put some careful consideration in, and more than likely she has a good chance of winning. But in the event that she doesn't, those tickets are going to pay a lot more if she doesn't.
We're going to find out if Mike Puype has any singles in today's 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 with a mandatory payout. We're also going to find out who he likes in the other races as well. But before we do any of that, let's toss the microphone over to track announcer Frank Miramati and get the early program changes for today, Saturday, at the Great Race Place.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. Here are the early changes. The track is fast, the turf is firm, rail at 0 feet on the turf course. John Velasquez not riding here today. In the first, number 3, She's a Perfect Lady, make the rider Juan Hernandez. Juan Hernandez rides number 3 in race 1. Early pick 5 starts with the first. No scratches or jockey changes in the second. Third race, 7 Sweet Duck carries 2 pounds over. In the fourth, number 3, Funny Feline, make the jockey Mike Smith 2 pounds over. 4 Roubaix, 3 pounds over. And note that number 7, Kitten's Kid, blinkers on. That's a late change and not listed in your program. 8 Sugar Apple will carry 2 pounds over. 9 Summer Pudding 2 pounds over. Scratch 13 and 14. Fourth race starts the Rainbow 6. We have a mandatory payout today. Just under 400,000 going in. Estimated pool 4 million based on previous experience. In the fifth, started the late pick 5, scratch 3, 4 left. Race 6 kicks off the late pick 4. No changes. In the seventh, number 2, Loudmouth, the rider is Juan Hernandez. Juan Hernandez rides 2, Loudmouth in the 7th. The 8th and featured event, the Irish O'Brien Stakes, starts the golden hour pick 4 with no changes. And in the 9th and final, scratch 4, Endless Sunset. Note 5, Exaltation. The jockey is Victor Espinoza. Those are the changes on today's card. Good luck in the mandatory payout pick 6 today on races 4 through 9. 57 minutes to post for race 1. Back to Quigley's Corner. Tom's guest today is Mike Puype.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with Mike Trainer. We're talking to Mike Trainer, Mike Puype. Easy for me to say. I haven't been up since 4 in the morning and I'm tongue-tied, but I wanted to say Mike Puype has saddled 33 runners at the meet so far. 17 of them have finished in the money. 5 wins, 7 seconds, and 5 thirds. Certainly does an excellent job with all of his stock. He's also been known to step up to the gambling window every now and then. So it's our pleasure to welcome on set and get his opinions on today's 9-race card. So Mike, let's kick things off in race number 1, and we're sprinting on the turf course. 6 furlongs of the distance. Fillies and mares starter allowance types. The rails today are at 0 feet. Race number 1 also begins the popular 50-cent early pick 5. Take note, Johnny V, John Velasquez, will not ride today. Make the jockey on number 3, She's a Perfect Lady, Juan Hernandez. We've got a field of 6 here, Mike. The morning line favorite, number 2, Sweet Madam Blue, was 5-2 on John White's morning line, but the one taking the action is number 4, Bowl of Cherries from the Ron Ellis Bar, now 2-1 up on the tote board. What were your thoughts on race 1?
Race 1, I felt First of all, when the rail changes are in different spots, the races make a big difference, contrary to anyone's belief. I really feel like DRF should come around to the modern day technology and start denoting the rail settings in the form. It makes a big difference.
Tell us why. Does it change the pace dynamics?
Sure. There's not as much room to close. Riders have to change their style of riding when the rail's out. They move in closer, and sometimes a horse doesn't agree to that. But overall, there's less room for the closers to get through. And then when the rail's down, the closers have a much greater chance than when the rails are out. And I'm hoping that eventually down the road they'll do that. If you're a real sophisticated handicapper, you take notes on it and have your own notes, but that's a lot of work and a lot of time to put into it, but it makes a difference. That being said, in this first race, I feel there's a lot of speed in this race, and I think the race sets up for a closer. That being said, I came up with the 3, 4, and the 6, which is giving you 3 of them. The 3 runs from off the pace, albeit she's been with cheaper, but she still makes a run from off the pace. The 4, Bowl of Cherries, is the same thing. She comes from the closing lane, and Translate does too. And Translate might have ran back a little bit too quick last time. So she's got a little more appropriate spacing for this race and a good post and a good turf rider. So I thought the race is between those 3 just because the amount of speed the 1, 2, and 5 possess.
The rail position doesn't seem to affect Bowl of Cherries, Mike. You talked about players keeping track of the rail position. I can tell you last time out on February 11th when Bowl of Cherries won, the rails were at 20 feet. And then the time before on January 21st, the rails were actually at 30 feet. So even though she likes to come from off the pace, the rail position hasn't hurt her today. And if anything, the rails being at 0 feet might actually even benefit her.
It might even benefit her. I'm not super crazy about her sheet numbers and her speed figures, but she has the right style for this race. And like you said, with the circumference changing, it probably will play into her hands. She was in a short field 2 races ago with a perfect trip and a perfect ride. And then same thing last time, got a perfect trip, and she's got her heart going the right way. And surely she'll have to be reckoned with here in this first race. But, it's still a competitive race, in my opinion, between the other horses. And I think Lunatic will just add to the speed the 1 and the 2 possess. And I'll be surprised if just one of them gets away and there isn't a fast pace in this race.
Mike likes 3 of the runners in race number 1. 3, 4, and 6 are his three top selections. Let's take a look at race number 2, Mike. This race is on the main track, 1 mile of the distance for maiden claiming. $150,000 claiming tag, high price tag here. Field of 5, morning line favorite number 1, American Admiral from the Timyak Teen Barn. First time in for a claiming tag, albeit at a high price. 4 to 5 on John White's morning line. Race 2 also begins the 50-cent early pick 4. What do you say about race 2?
Yeah, it's without a question probably the only single I had on the whole card, and the horse on the rail is a single. I just don't see much depth in this race. I don't see much anything in here that would lead me to believe the 1 will get beat. He come with a good number in his last race. He's got just about the right amount of time. He's got 3 weeks. He's fit. He ran with Soe, Tapatio, Disco Ball, Woe the Star. He's been with good horses all the way through his company lines. This is a drop. Even though it's still 150, it's still a drop in class out of the maiden special race. And I just think the horse figures very well. He's got tactical speed. He draws the rail, which at a flat mile helps. It guarantees you a good ground-saving trip into the first turn. And I'm not sure if the 2 horses, both his routes weren't very good. He's a run happy. I don't know that he gets the distance. If he got away somehow and cleared, I guess that race could be a different story. If he just cleared it, speed's tough to catch at Santa Anita on the main track, so it'd be the only horse I could get past on the 1, but I do think the 1 will win the second race.
Mike likes the favorite number 1, American Admiral, in race number 2. Before we take a look at race number 3, Mike, a question for you. You've got some game owners, Sluggo Racing, Paymaster come to mind, also Tiger Racing. You guys have been known to dip into the claim box. What goes into the decision of claiming a horse? Not specifically talking about any one horse, but what are some of the things you guys discuss before dropping the tag?
Most important thing you got to look at in claiming a horse in Southern California right now is race availability. You got to know what kind of spots you got, what kind of conditions you got, where are you going to run this horse. Horses for $150,000 don't even really interest me because you're in between. If you claim them even for $62,000 instead of $50,000, don't interest me.
Because you're not eligible for the starter allowance.
Right. And then you're going to have to run the horse for less money to get that eligibility, and you're putting yourself in a spot to lose more than a little bit of money in that particular situation. So complete race availability and what you think and where you can go. I don't claim a lot, but we've done really good over the years when we do claim and with what I got. And, I just, like I said, I don't dip in too often, but when we do, we try to know that we got some spots to run in, and you can make your own decisions from that point with what kind of races you want to use.
Take a look at race number 3, Mike. 6 furlongs of the distance on the main track. Fillies and Mares, Calbreds in for a $50,000 claiming tag. The race was written for 3 and up, but they're all 3-year-olds. We've got a field of 7 and number 4. Sweet California from the Simon Callahan barn, who missed the break last time out, is the 2-1 morning line favorite, ridden by the bug boy, Diego Herrera. What are your thoughts on race 3?
Yeah, strictly a race that the 4 probably should win, but I didn't necessarily feel like he just had to win. Flavian leaves, which is very interesting. I don't know if they just want the weight or if Flavian had another horse that canceled at entry time, because it's very rare that he wouldn't be on this horse today. For that being said, it is the horse to beat. It did miss the break last time. The only 2 horses that I could even give a look to are the 5 and the 7, just because they haven't competed at the level. The other horses that have ran at the level and ran against Sweet California were already beaten by her, and she might have lost 5 to 6 lengths in that start that day. So it'd be hard to make a case for one of the other horses beating her that she already beat, So if she were to get out of the gate, she didn't have a good trip the first time. She is going to have a good chance of winning today, the 4 horse there. But in the event that she's not genuine, and she did come out of a very slow heat, you can't ignore the fact that they came home in 27 that day in February. The track was a lot deeper then than it is now, but at the same time, I have a feeling that she still is the horse to beat here. But like I said, if someone's going to get her, it'd be one of the 2 horses dropping, I would think.
Mike made a very good point. If you have the daily racing form in front of you, you can see Sweet California's last effort earned a Beyer speed figure of 52. The par level for a Beyer speed figure at this level is 59. So certainly, although she had trouble and she finished a good second, her time wasn't necessarily fast, which could bode well for one of the droppers, as Mike mentioned. Number 7, Sweet Duck, who we mentioned, adds blinkers, takes the drop in class. And take a look who finished second in that race, Rosie's Forecast, who will participate in the next race, which we're going to talk about, which is race number 4, which begins the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. This is the 6 race sequence that everybody's interested in. The current carryover is $395,000, but everything must go today. Expectations are new money will be in excess of $4 million, and we kick it off in race number 4, sprinting 6 furlongs in the turf course for Calbred, Fillies and Mares, maiden special weights. Make the jockey on number 3, Funny Feline, Mike Smith. Scratch the 2 also eligibles, leaves us with a field of 12. Also take note, number 7, Kitten's Kid does add blinkers. That's not noted in either the program or the racing form, so take note of that special equipment change. And the morning line favorite, the aforementioned number 5, Rosie Forecast from the Ben Cecil barn, 3-1 on the morning line. This was a head scratcher way for me, Mike, to kick off the pick 6. We need your help. What do you say?
Yeah, it's an interesting race. I don't think you can just put a finger on one horse. I think the morning line is completely off on the 7 horse here at 7-2. It gives no indication she could be anywhere near 7-2. She's a betting favorite almost in every race, She gets Flavian Prat today. She's going back to a sprint race, which is her 2 best races are sprinting on the turf. I question if she even wants the distance of the mile, On the other hand, I don't think she's necessarily a single, just because she doesn't sheet that fast. Her numbers aren't excessively fast, and when I saw her in the paddock the other day, she's not exactly blooming with a lot of weight and like a super healthy looking horse. Therefore, I feel the race has a little bit of a spread necessary. I came up with 4 horses in the race. The 2 is a first-time starter by Flintshire out of a City Zip mare. That is a complete pedigree for the grass. I know nothing about the horse. I've never seen it work. A couple quick works for Neil Drysdale, and he doesn't exactly work horses too fast, over the years. So there's a possibility that horse could have some run. Rosie Forecast, who John made the favorite over the other horse, ran a decent sheet number and warrants a shot to believe that it'll be okay as well to be used. And Beautiful Temple had to need her last race coming out of August and didn't run a bad race by any means. She's ran competitively enough to give a look to in this spot. So that would be the other horse I would be using.
2 of the 3 runners, Mike, you picked are 4-year-olds, and there's a bunch of 3-year-olds in the field as well. Now, this time of year, always difficult for 3-year-olds to compete against older. Is that a handicapping consideration for you?
Without a question. Last year and so far this meet, I think there's definitely a statistical dominance on the 4-year-olds in these maiden races, especially this early. We're still in March, so these are very young horses going up against them. The problem is when you get to some career maidens that are still struggling, they don't always have to win, and they're still beatable, but you're right. It is a little bit of an advantage nonetheless to be the older horse against the younger in spots like this.
Number 5, Rosie Forecast in race number 4, finished second last time out to Increase Stakes, who came back to win for trainer Edward Freeman and jockey Edwin Maldonado. Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 5 sequence. It's also a split of race number 7. We're going all on the main track for allowance optional claiming types, non-winners of 1 other than. Scratch the 3 leaves us with a field of 8. Morning line favorite, the unfortunate disqualification of Disco Ball is the 7-2 morning line favorite. That was at 7 furlongs with this condition, Mike. Now going 2 turns. Give us your thoughts on race 5.
Yeah, this is a race that you got to dig into your handicapping here to figure out. The race gave me a little bit of trouble just to look at it. The problem with this race is it appears to have an abundance of speed in here. I mean, you've got the 2 horses ran at Los Al, and even though he comes off the pace, those are shorter distance races. I don't know exactly how much speed he'll show. 4 Left scratched. Noble Reflection has speed. Disco Ball has speed. Holding the Lute has speed. And Affable's tactical and hasn't really shown that he's a better router than a sprinter, and he's by flatter, So I came up with the 1 and the 5 horse here just because they have tactical styles. I feel the race will be run at a good clip. Disco Ball did win a race at Los Al, but that's not Santa Anita, and to go the full mile at Santa Anita, it's a little deeper track, and I'm not quite sure that he's more router than sprinter one way or the other. But that being said, Mongolian wins one of his better races was the race when Richie Baltas lost him, and he won easily that day off the pace, off a good race with a good pace. I kind of like him over Phantom Dance, but Phantom Dance also has a style where he's ran from the passing lane, and again, the race kind of sets up there. But I prefer Mongolian Win to Phantom Dance, but those are the 2 that I like based on the amount of pace in the race today.
5 and 1 in race number 5. A question for you, Mike. You talked about a lot of speed in the race, and as a handicapper, we see that often, but then many times both the jockeys and the trainers are looking at the same racing form, and they decide to maybe take back or maybe not show as much early speed, and all of a sudden the complexion of the race changes. Have you done that in the past, and do you regret doing that?
Yeah, it's something you have to adjust. You handicap races, and you just absolutely sometimes you get to a point where you see the race one way and it comes out another, and all of a sudden you got 4 speed horses and only one of them's out there.
Right.
We'll discuss that in the next race coming up, but things change once the gates open because trainers are given instructions through their owners, and it changes the way the riders ride. Sometimes the riders overthink themselves, and all of a sudden only one of them's out there, and this could be the race where maybe somehow Disco Ball gets away. And then once you're left alone on this main track here at Santa Anita, you're in good shape because, again, the speed's been a dominant factor here on the main track most of the meet. So you got to kind of see through the race. I envision the race to be plenty of speed in there, but who knows? Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Let's talk about race number 6. We're going 1 mile on the turf course for fillies and mares. Starter allowance types, and race number 6 begins the 50-cent late pick 4. We've got a field of 8. Morning line favorite number 7, Agree to Disagree, who does not run on Lasix, is the 3-1 morning line favorite from the Peter Urton barn. What are your thoughts on race 6, Mike?
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. Here again, this becomes a race of how do you handicap it, and where's it going to go? How much speed is the rail horse going to show here? And Froze is going to try to probably go a little bit, even though his fractions aren't that fast. Galavia is totally the fastest horse in the race to go to the lead here. The horse stole a race at Del Mar when it cleared. I don't know if she's going to quite clear or not, but I think this race requires a little bit of a deeper spread regardless, because one of 2 things are going to happen. If the speed runs with Galavia, it'll do her in, but if she gets away, she could go wire to wire. Freedom Last is a horse I trained for Little Red Feather, very great clients of mine, and they also have Agree to Disagree in this race, who actually was put on the lead when the rail was out that day. I think they wanted to get into the race that day, and it didn't quite work out. She'll probably be coming from the passing lane today with Flavian for a better chance. Freedom Last I've trained as well. She lacks that what it really takes in crunch time to finish it off, but I think she comes out of good races against better horses, so I think she's still got to be given a chance. Cinti Winty even, I thought last time the rails were out, and uncharacteristically, Rospoli put her in the race on a fast pace. I think it ran against the way she should be ridden. She's definitely a one-run closer that comes from behind a little bit, and I think the pace did her in. She did not have a full work tab going into that race. She only had the 4 workouts off a couple month layoff, so she might have been in need of that race. Expect her to run a better race from there. So again, I guess it'll depend on how much pressure is put on Galavie. But I think the race, even Rose's Crystal last time ran a good race because she had no pace to run at, and she was running against a 49 pace, and she came close and only get beat a length. So she's got to be considering. So for me, I had the 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a little bit spready here, but at the same time, I feel like the race warrants a little bit of selection here.
Mike, we've talked about the pace of the race. Let me ask you about post position draws. And you'd mentioned Sinte Winte going the flat mile on the turf course, but draws the outside post in a field of 8. Would that maybe negate some of your optimism about her chances today?
Not really. Rispoli on these kind of horses, he'll look, instead of rushing the turn, he'll look to drop back and get in somehow. He loves to run from the inside. He likes to ride from the trench. I think he'll give it up right away. And when the rail's down at 0, he'll have all his options available to him. And like I said, I expect her to run a much better race today because the rails are down. And I think he adjusted her style last time to a faster pace, to being up close without enough works, and she probably got tired. I think at 6-1, she brings value to the play today to get a better trip and a better ride.
Let's see if we can find some value in race number 7. We're going 1 mile on the main track. Race 7 is a split of race 5, so same conditions. Allowance optional claiming types, non-winners of 1 other than a field of 9. Take note, the jockey in number 2, Loudmouth, is now Juan Hernandez, the morning line favorite on the outside off a layoff for the Field of Auto Barn. Number 9, Dance Samo, 5-2 on the morning line. We know Dance Samo likes the turf, but this race is on dirt. What say you about race 7, Mike?
It's a good question mark here. Looking at the race, Dan Somo's first race on the dirt was a bad one, but bear in mind, this horse has a double-sided pedigree to be running on the dirt. Maybe routing, I don't think it's a bad entry on their behalf. It's probably where the horse's pedigree fits best, is to be on the dirt. I would give the horse another chance in this spot.
And they get Flavian.
Yeah.
That never hurts.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, Flavian's on it. So I would, and you got to realize that horse ran at Tampa Bay. It was his first race of its life. It ran on the rail, probably ate dirt right on his face the whole way. I could put a line through the race and say, you know what, this horse is probably, the workout reports have been solid on the horse. The 5 horse also got some, raving reviews from the Handicappers Report, which is a really good sheet of information that I use for my handicap. And I think they're the most accurate publication out there. You got some good private clockers here at the track period, but they're much in liking the workouts on the 5 horse here today. And that horse has a good chance, comes out of a very live race in the summer. The question is if the horse is fit and ready, but bear in mind the horse has had a couple 59 works in a minute and got some good times. Those are not easy to achieve over this racetrack in the morning. The track's never a super fast track in the morning. So obviously the 5's training well and getting good endorsements there. So I feel like that's the other horse in the race to use here. It's another race with enough tactical speed in here that it should be a horse that comes from off the pace. And both the horses I picked here slightly run off the pace, and we'll see what happens. Motown Music, they're putting the blinkers back on today. When they put him on him the one time, he was a little rank with them. I don't know if how far that'll flow for that horse or what his style will be in the race. I guess he'd be an outside shot, but I still prefer the 5 and the 9 here.
Mike, what do you do with a runner like number 2, Loudmouth, who was claimed for 82 races back by a sharp barn, John Sadler, now runs for 50. They stretch out. You talked about favorable workout reports. There have been some favorable workout reports on Loudmouth. How do you evaluate his chances in this race?
That's a good question. I never felt like that he was a better 2-turn horse than a 1-turn horse. And he just looks like a horse that's gone the wrong way. I mean, John's ready to part ways with him at 50,000, even though there's a purse involved here. Again, it's rare that the horse did not run very good in his last race. He didn't break good. There's maybe some things, but his last set of races have not been good. He's not a horse trending going the right direction. He used to run some very good sheet numbers and some low numbers, and he's running big double digits now. I just think he's kind of come out of form, and I'd be hard pressed to want to use him in this spot today because I've seen him run good enough before, but I just don't think he's in the best form right now.
5 and 9 in race number 7. Let's take a look at race number 8, our feature race on the card. It's the Irish O'Brien Stakes for Calbred. Fillies and mares coming down the hillside turf course, 6.5 furlongs of the distance. And of course, race 8 begins the popular $1 Golden Hour Pick 4, linking our last 2 races here with the last 2 races at Golden Gate. Yesterday's $1 Golden Hour Pick 4 payout was in excess of $2,000 with only 1 difficult horse to find. And in race 8 here, we've got a field of 7, as we talked about before the analysis. Number 2, Becca Taylor is the 4-5 morning line favorite. We kind of touched upon this race, Mike. Anything else to add that we didn't already talk about?
I think we pretty much covered it. I think the amount of pace is going to be the question mark here. The 1's probably going to go, and the 2 will be right on top of her, getting a perfect trip. Again, I'm not just sure how much the 2's beaten, but she's a very live filly. She's done nothing but win, but I'd still have to back up using the 5 and the 6 in this spot, just because I feel that, you know, for value's sake, if you're making a bet and you're making an investment on a card like this, you don't want to be stuck just on the favorite only, because believe me, if somehow she gets beaten, you're on the right end of the right horse here. You have no idea how many tickets are going to vanish on the 2 horse here, you know?
And we're always trying to knock the favorite. And let's face it, her numbers really don't stack up against the competition. But maybe even more importantly, she's never been down the hillside turf course. That's a big question mark, because you well know horses either like the hill or don't like the hill. We don't know whether she likes the hill.
Yes, correct. And that's, again, like you said, there's just another variable in there for a short price favorite. Are you willing to take that chance and try to save some money and single her? That's a good question. But again, if you're looking for value, you really want to see, sometimes if you really feel there's some vulnerability in a favorite, the best thing you can do is give yourself a chance with a couple other horses, because believe me, there'll be a lot of tickets that'll burn up on her if she does lose today. If she doesn't, then you're just riding right along with the group, you know?
Hopefully our tickets are still alive going into the 9th race on a very competitive 9-race card today. And we close it out going 1 mile on the turf course. Starter allowance types once again. And also race number 9 begins the $5 Golden Hour Daily Double, linking our last race with the last race at Golden Gate. Take note of a jockey change on number 5. Exaltation will now be ridden by jockey Victor Espinoza. The one on the outside, number 12, Keystone Field, is the lukewarm 7-2 morning line favorite. This is another tough race, Mike, to close out the sequence.
Yeah, a matter of fact, it is the toughest race on the card today, without a question. You better be well armed and use a lot of horses in there. I only could eliminate 3 horses, and I know that sounds long and wrong, but I had eliminated actually 2 horses as all I eliminated, because they scratched the 4. I had gotten rid of the 6 horse, and the 4 was scratched, and the 3 horse I didn't care for. But all the others, this last time they ran the starter, a lot of things went wrong in that race. There was a lot of traffic over down the backstretch into the turn. Even Keystone Field looked to be the speed of the race that day, and he wasn't the speed of the race. Other horses jumped out there. Fly the Sky got a little bit more advantageous trip than the others. He had a bad trip. My horse, Irish Heatwave, he was murdered down on the fence. He never got a chance to run. I mean, a lot of things happen. This is a race where I'm sure a lot of things are going to happen again. I think you need to save some squares in that race and go a little deeper and hope to get lucky and get a price, just because the race is very wide open.
Mike says, make sure you have plenty of money in your wallet, because you're going to need a lot of ammunition to play the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 today. Mandatory payout. And as you just heard for the last 14 minutes, not only is Mike Puype a very astute trainer, he's also a very astute handicapper. Mike, thanks so much for your time and insight today. Continued success both on the track and also at the betting windows. We'll do it sometime again real soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to all of you for watching as well. Want to wish you nothing but luck today on Mandatory Payout Day here at the Great Race Place. Have fun, everybody, and good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. Here are the changes. Track fast, turf firm, rail on the turf 0 feet. First race begins the early pick 5. Number 3, She's a Perfect Lady, will be ridden by jockey Juan Hernandez. Juan Hernandez on race 1, start of the early pick 5. In the second race, just the blinker note, start of the early pick 4. Race 3, number 7, Sweet Duck, carries 2 pounds over. Fourth race starts the Rainbow 6, 395,000 in the jackpot carryover. However, we have a mandatory payout today. Mandatory payout, estimated pool for the 20-cent pick 6, $4 million. Number 3, Funny Feline, the jockey Mike Smith, 2 pounds over. 4, Roubaix, 3 pounds over. Late equipment adjustment for number 7, Kitten's Kid. Put the blinkers on, number 7. 8, Sugar Apple, 2 over. 9, Summer Pudding, 2 over. And scratch the also eligibles, 13 and 14. In the fifth, scratch number 3, 4 left. Late pick 5 starts with race 5. Turning to the sixth, beginning of the late pick 4, there are no changes. In the seventh, number 2, Loudmouth, the jockey Juan Hernandez.